So is the third time the charm for Mortal Kombat? Hello everyone and welcome to Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry and today I'm going to talk about Mortal Kombat. Probably already know, Mortal Kombat is based on the early 1990s video game of the same name. This is actually the third time that Mortal Kombat has been brought to the big screen, but it's only the first time that's been given an R rating. I'll talk more about that in a second. The plot's pretty straightforward. It follows the story of a washed-up MMA fighter named Cole who winds up getting recruited into this special fighter group that is supposed to defend the planet against a group of invaders from a place called Outworld. And he's part of it turns out that he's descended from a group of mystical warriors that combine traditional fighting skills with superpowers. And he's actually the very last in a bloodline that the main bad guy named Sub-Zero has been hunting down for centuries. Okay. Before I get too much farther into this though, I think what I should say is that I'm not a gamer myself. I've watched people play Mortal Kombat. I haven't played it myself. I'm not generally into games. And so keep that in mind as you consider my evaluation. But even though I'm not a gamer, I'm trying to kind of evaluate this movie from a couple of different perspectives. And from what I can tell, I'm thinking that fans of the Mortal Kombat game are going to enjoy this movie, at least to a certain degree, because as I mentioned before, this is the first time the movie's been given an R rating. The first two installments were, they weren't all, the first two were actually, there was an original one and there was a sequel back in the 1990s. And I've seen clips from each one, and I know that especially that the second one, I think Annihilation is what it's called, is just supposed to be a legendarily bad movie. And so at the very least, I think that this new Mortal Kombat should be a substantial step up from either of those two, which probably is not really great news because it's not a real high threshold to meet. But again, one of the things that is different, now if you are familiar with Mortal Kombat, or if you know whether you played it a whole lot or not, it was pretty obvious that the thing that made the movie, or that made the video game so popular was because it just had, you know, this new level of graphic violence in a video game. And so that seems to be one of the main points of focus of this movie, is that they want to have the feel of the original video game with a lot of blood and a lot of, you know, amputations and various hijinks, right? And so that's there. There's also a lot of R-rated language, again, which I'm going to kind of get to a little bit later on. But so if your desire was to see something that was a little bit more true to the original video game, I think that fans are going to be happy with that. Now, at the same time, just evaluating it as a movie, it's not very good. The fight scenes are pretty fun. I think there are a lot of references that the video game fans are going to enjoy. Like, even not having played it myself, I'm familiar enough with it that I was picking up a number of different references, especially to kind of dialogue and different things that you would see in the game that have been included here intentionally as kind of a nod to fans. And so I think that people will enjoy that. As a movie, though, it really is just not very good. One of the main reasons it suffers, I think, is because of the rating, sadly, because even though it has content of an R-rated movie, it has the tone and the feel and style of more of a PG-13 movie. So it kind of feels like a PG-13 movie that had other elements added onto it after the fact in order to get it that R rating. It feels off. And so, you know, I felt myself watching it and thinking, you know, if they had tried to kind of go the distance and just made this a really dark, adult, serious movie, you know, not serious, but serious enough that, you know, when the characters are using all kinds of profanity, and then when the violence kind of comes, the violence is pretty chintzy CGI. There's a lot of kind of goofy blood that's, you know, to me, it just seems like it's kind of non-committal. Like it could have gone one of two different directions, and instead it just stayed right on the line. And so it just feels kind of weak. And then the more traditional elements don't really help it either. The dialogue is, you know, even worse than, you know, a lot of your regular action movies. And the character development, the whole idea is that Cole is getting together with a group of other kind of underdog misfits. Sonya Blade is in there, and some of the others, and None of them really have a whole lot of development, which you don't really expect in a movie like this, but you also don't really care about them. I think the only way you'd be interested is if you recognize them from the game, and so it's fun to see that they were there from the game, but beyond that, it's very forgettable. Very few of the characters have any real resonance, and even Cole's character is a pretty routine underdog to the point where the story in the movie itself becomes very, very predictable. And so I try to keep in mind that, this is a movie for fans, and I think fans will enjoy it to a point. But I think if you're being really honest with yourselves, even fans will acknowledge that this isn't a great movie. It might be kind of fun and good for some nostalgia and an improvement over previous efforts, but overall, not something I could really recommend. So overall, I'm going to come in at 2 stars out of 4 for Mortal Kombat. I think the fans will enjoy it, at least initially. It'll be fun to kind of see some of the references, and I think that fans will enjoy seeing a movie that has content that's a little bit more reflective of the game, but it's also not a good enough movie that I think it's going to have any real staying power and affection for years to come. So what's your favorite video game adaptation? Are there any good ones? Let me know in the comments below. So thanks everybody for watching. This has been Movie Reviews by Josh. I'm really grateful for you taking the time to watch, and if you would subscribe, I'd be even more grateful. Leave your notifications on so you can see their new posts as soon as they are up. And in the meantime, have yourself a great day.